Hey, and welcome back to Heimler's History. In this video, we're going to be exploring state building and culture making in South Asia and Southeast Asia. If you have no idea where those places are, I mean this place and these places. Okay, let's start in India, or what the AP overlords like to call South Asia. So even though Muslims ruled the north of India during this time, and Buddhism was a major player, Hindu kingdoms continued to have the most significant influence. If you'll recall from the last video, Muslims had established the Delhi Sultanate in northern India, and it didn't make much progress converting the Indian population to Islam. And not being content to rule only northern India, two brothers were sent from the Delhi Sultanate down to South India to see what kind of prospects they would have for extending the kingdom. And as it turns out, these two brothers were among the Hindus who had converted to Islam, but not necessarily for respectable reasons. They converted for power and upward social mobility. And so once they left the Sultanate, they were surrounded by the Hindu faith once again, and they converted back to Hinduism. And instead of extending Muslim rule to southern India, they went ahead and set up a new Hindu kingdom called the Vijayanagara Empire in 1336. Now let's talk religion for a minute. As I mentioned before, the dominant religion in India during this time was Hinduism. There was also a small Buddhist minority, but we'll talk about them in another video. But for now, let's just try to understand what it is a Hindu believes. And here's a pretty tidy summary of the Hindu faith. Through samsara, the Atman seeks moksha to escape from the material world and become one with Brahman. But the pace of this progress depends on karma. Boy, you better start talking American, because I don't understand a darn word you're saying. Fine, let's take it one phrase at a time. Through samsara. Samsara is the Hindu conception of the great repeating circle of life and death. A person is born, lives, dies, and then is reincarnated to start all over again. Through samsara, the Atman. The Atman is a sort of equivalent to what we Westerners would call the soul. It's like the divine principle that is resident within each person. Through samsara, the Atman seeks moksha. So the Atman is stuck in this cycle of death and rebirth, but the ultimate goal is to escape from that cycle, and that escape is called moksha. Through samsara, the Atman seeks moksha to escape from the material world and become one with Brahman. So Atman is the divine principle that lives within every person, but the Brahman is the divine being that undergirds all of reality. And so the point of moksha, escape, is for the Atman to dissolve back into the Brahman. And finally, the pace of this process depends on karma. Karma is like the sum total of a person's life and actions. If they were good, they've accumulated good karma and will therefore be closer to moksha. If they were bad, then the opposite is true. Now this was the main belief, but as you can imagine, there were countless manifestations of it. And a major example of this is the Bhakti Movement in the 12th century. The Bhaktis were Hindu believers that emphasized the emotional side of devotion. Moreover, they emphasized devotion to one god within the pantheon of Hindu gods. And this should sound somewhat familiar. They were a lot like the Muslim Sufis in that they emphasized religious experience and direct relationship with the gods over rigid ritualistic behavior. So Hindu ideas were woven deeply into Indian culture, and one of the byproducts of it was the caste system. The caste system was a hierarchical structuring of society that divided people into 5 groups. Each one was better than the one underneath it. The only way to move from a lower caste to the one above it is to have good karma, and the only way to know if you had good karma was to die and find out. And that means that whatever caste you were born into in this particular life, well, you better get kind of comfortable there, because you're not going to move, because after all, you earned it. And a cultural structure this rigid, as you can imagine, led to some remarkable cultural continuity. And speaking of culture, Indians influenced and were influenced by other cultures as well. For example, Indians shared significant intellectual capital with folks from the Middle East. Arabs built on advances in astronomy begun by Indians, and the Arabs translated Indian work on algebra and geometry and spread them all throughout Dar al-Islam. Alright, that's India. Let's move over to Southeast Asia, which is basically today's nations of Indonesia, Malaysia, Cambodia, Thailand, Laos, and Vietnam. Religiously, these lands were filled with Hindus and Buddhists, and they had the merchants to thank for bringing such faiths to bear upon the population. Now, this region was perfectly situated to rule over sea-based trade routes. And as a result of that, several major kingdoms emerged, and we need to look at them now. One example of a sea-based power was the Majapahit Kingdom, established in 1293. It was based on the island of Java and largely sustained its power and wealth by controlling sea routes. And it's probably important for you to know that these folks were Buddhists. An example of a land-based empire was the Khmer Empire, which was established in 802 and lasted till 1431. This empire flourished because of their complex irrigation and drainage systems going to and from the Mekong River. This kind of technology led to huge agricultural progress and therefore significant prosperity, and these folks were Hindus, but they later converted to Buddhism. But let's not forget about the Muslims. Because this was a significant trading route, and because Muslims were significant traders, Islam came to live here too. Not in as big as numbers as Hinduism and Buddhism, but they had a respectable showing. And that's what you need to know about India and Southeast Asia. You are such a genius. Alright, thanks for watching another video. If you're not part of the Heimler's History community, then click that subscribe button. Go ahead, it'll feel great. And if this video was helpful to you in the slightest, then hit that like button and let me know. I will see you in the next one.